On the side of the road, construction workers stumbled upon a red suitcase. Upon opening it, they were met with a horrific surprise. Inside was the body of a girl. It turned out that Valeria Reis had become a victim of one of the most brutal deaths one could imagine. Valeria was born in a small town called New Rochelle, New York, and was the older sister to 3 younger brothers, with whom she always shared a close bond. She was known for her vibrant personality, cheerful demeanor, and sociability, always surrounded by friends. Valeria's mother was her best friend, and there were no secrets between them. The girl had remarkable talents. She sang beautifully and was skilled at drawing, and she dreamed of a career in tattooing, following in the footsteps of her brother, who was already an experienced tattoo artist. Their shared dream was to open their own tattoo parlor, but at that time, Valeria worked in a bookstore. In January 2018, on a dating site, 24-year-old Valeria met 26-year-old Javier da Silva, originally from Venezuela. He had left his country in 2017 out of fear for his life, never finishing college. Javier moved to New York, where he worked as a waiter. Valeria and Javier went on a few dates. They liked each other, but their relationship did not last long, about 3 months. Javier began insisting that they should move in together and even considered marriage, which pushed Valeria away. She felt that everything was happening too fast and suggested ending their relationship. Valeria's family had seen Javier several times and considered him a pleasant young man, but his excessive persistence raised concerns. Javier disagreed with the idea of a breakup and began trying to keep Valeria close. He would text her and seemingly run into her in stores and on the streets. In September 2018, Javier called Valeria, claiming that he had accidentally paid for something online with her bank card and wanted to meet to return the money. The girl took this situation skeptically, believing he was stalking her. Valeria did not want to resume a relationship with such a clingy guy, so she sought help from a friend who met with Javier and asked him to leave Valeria alone. He heeded her words, and Valeria was finally able to relax and feel safe. However, on January 24th, 2019, Javier wrote to one of his ex-girlfriends, claiming that he had caught Valeria in bed with a neighbor. This was a blatant lie, as Valeria could not have been at his place since they had broken up and were no longer in contact. Why he did this remained unclear, but at that time, the girl had indeed started dating another guy. On January 27th, 2019, Valeria celebrated with her family, and they enjoyed a joyful atmosphere together. The next day, January 28th, after working at the store, she returned home and called her mother in a panic, claiming that she feared someone was trying to kill her. Valeria said she was suffering from anxiety attacks and felt unsafe in her own home, as she had heard about recent horrific cases of women being murdered. When her mother asked who exactly her daughter was afraid of, she did not name a specific person. The mother tried to calm Valeria down, and their conversation came to an end. Around midnight, the girl sent a message to her mother, saying she felt better and planned to go to bed since she was very tired. This turned out to be the last message from Valeria. The next day, January 29th, Valeria did not show up for work, which was completely atypical for her. She always took her responsibilities seriously and never arrived late without notifying anyone about her absence. She had been working at the bookstore for about 2 years and loved her job, so her behavior was unusual. The manager couldn't reach her, and in the evening, Valeria also did not appear for the family dinner. Her mother began to worry a lot because of their alarming conversation the day before. Valeria did not answer the calls. Relatives continuously tried to contact her, but all calls went to voicemail. The family was in a panic, posting photos of Valeria on social media and calling all her friends in search of information. On the morning of January 30th, relatives reported the girl missing to the police. They expressed suspicion about her ex-boyfriend, Javier, and asked to thoroughly check him. The police searched Valeria's apartment for evidence, but found nothing suspicious. Their investigation found no signs of a struggle or disorder. Nevertheless, small bloodstains were discovered on a pillowcase and in the bathroom, which did not raise any suspicions among the police. They concluded that this could have been a regular occurrence. Perhaps the girl had accidentally injured herself or had a nosebleed, so it was not a reason for further investigation. After receiving the missing persons report regarding Valeria, the police began active searches and contacted the mobile operator for additional information. It turned out that on the night of January 28th to 29th, around 3 a.m., the girl's phone had been switched to airplane mode, and it remained inactive since then. Moreover, it was discovered that someone had accessed her iCloud account, where they viewed photos, videos, and messages, which raised significant concerns. 2 hours after the airplane mode was activated, at 5 a.m. on January 29th, $1,000 was withdrawn from her debit card. Surveillance footage from the ATM recorded a man withdrawing the money, who arrived in a black Honda and left the scene after taking the cash. Notably, Valeria did not appear in the car. Investigators, using other cameras, were able to identify the vehicle's license plate, which revealed that it was rented by Valeria's ex-boyfriend, Javier, whom the girl's relatives had asked them to check. Thus, Javier became the main suspect in the case. The police obtained a search warrant for his residence, but found no evidence. However, surveillance cameras near Javier's house were found. The footage showed that at 10:50 p.m. on January 28th, he left his home in a black car. During the investigation, the police discovered that his phone had been located near Valeria's apartment. After checking phone calls, it was established that the girl had not been in contact with him and did not invite him to meet. However, the question arose as to what he was doing near her apartment around midnight. That same evening, Javier switched his phone to airplane mode, making it impossible to track him. At 6:30 a.m., he turned his phone back on while being in Harrison, Connecticut, and then at 7:30, his device was located in Greenwich, Connecticut. It was not until 9:43 a.m. that he returned to his apartment in Queens, New York, as confirmed by surveillance cameras. It is worth noting that Javier was wearing different clothes than he had when he left home and was carrying a large sports bag. A few minutes later, he left the house without the bag. That evening, before Valeria's disappearance, Javier posted a photo of them together on Instagram, which also raised some questions. Meanwhile, while the police were conducting the investigation, Valeria's relatives were busy putting up flyers and searching for the girl. But their efforts were yielding no results. On February 5th, a week after the disappearance, the investigation took a new turn. Road workers discovered a red suitcase on the side of the road. Upon opening it, they immediately called the police. Inside the suitcase was the body of a girl. Her hands and feet were bound, and her mouth was taped shut. The girl was wearing jeans and an unbuttoned shirt but was barefoot, and she had a serious head injury. On February 6th, it was confirmed that this was the body of the missing 24-year-old Valeria Reis, identified by her relatives. The pathologist conducting the autopsy determined the cause of death to be homicide. The girl had been struck on the head with a blunt object, and alive, she had been locked in the suitcase, where she ultimately died from asphyxiation. The police were confident that Javier was behind the crime. However, they had no compelling evidence against him other than the fact that his bank card had been used. As a result, he was arrested and charged. Valeria's card and identification were found in his wallet. During questioning, Javier claimed he had found these items by chance in one of the bars. But this explanation seemed completely implausible. Detectives, knowing that he had been near Valeria's apartment that night, asked him about it. He confirmed that he had been drinking heavily that evening and may have been there, but he couldn't remember anything. Investigators told him what had happened to Valeria, and Javier broke down. He confessed to everything. According to him, on January 28th, he had gone to Valeria's place at her invitation, and they had consensual sex. During this, she accidentally fell, hit her head on the floor, and lost consciousness. Javier, scared, didn't call the police because he feared he would be blamed. He decided to tie her up, tape her mouth shut, and throw her body in the suitcase. But the question arises as to why he bound the girl and taped her mouth if, according to him, she was already showing no signs of life. At the same time, Javier withdrew $4,350 from Valeria's card, knowing that the police would be looking for him. Valeria lost her phone when Javier threw it off a bridge into the river, and after that, he thoroughly cleaned his car, which allowed him to avoid leaving any traces. He also accessed her iCloud account, where he viewed photos and other documents she had stored. To gain access to her bank account, Javier used her thumbprint. The police did not believe his version of events. He was charged with kidnapping that led to Valeria's death. It turned out that Javier not only withdrew all the money from her card, but also took her laptop and computer, capturing the process in photos. When Javier's neighbor asked him about the new items he had, the guy replied that he had found them on the street, but the neighbor didn't believe him and didn't delve into his affairs. DNA testing confirmed that Javier's samples were found both on the red suitcase and on Valeria's body, including under her fingernails on her chest and in the genital area. The prosecution in court suggested that Javier was obsessed with the girl. The prosecutor presented his version of events, indicating that Javier had entered Valeria's apartment without any signs of forced entry, likely having keys with him. Valeria was asleep and did not hear him come in. At the moment he burst into her bedroom, a struggle ensued, during which he struck her on the head with a blunt object, causing her to lose consciousness. In a panic, Javier tied her up and taped her mouth shut, so she couldn't call for help. After that, he hid her in the suitcase, took her away from her home, and disposed of her far from her apartment. In court on February 5, 2020, Javier pleaded guilty to kidnapping that resulted in death. He expressed remorse and apologized to Valeria's family. His lawyers argued that the young man had been suffering from severe depression due to his breakup with the girl. He had been using substances while away from home, which negatively impacted his mental and emotional state. Letters from Javier's acquaintances in Venezuela were presented to the court, claiming he was a good person who had simply made a mistake. Valeria's family did not accept his apology. The girl's mother called him a greedy and soulless selfish person. On September 3, 2021, Javier was sentenced to 30 years in prison. During the investigation, it was revealed that he had been in the United States illegally. Javier entered the country on May 8, 2017, under the visa waiver program, but did not leave by the proper date of August 5, 2017. After serving his sentence, he will face deportation to Venezuela. This tragic story reminds us of how important it is to pay attention to the people around us, as the invisible internal struggles can lead to horrifying consequences. Every action has its repercussions, and irresponsibility and fear can drive even the most unexpected actions. Javier, seemingly just a simple young man going through a breakup, fell into a chasm that resulted in a terrible tragedy. His act is not only a crime, but also a reflection of deep personal issues that, if left unacknowledged and unresolved, can destroy not only the lives of others, but also the life of the perpetrator himself. This narrative serves as a call for mindfulness and compassion in our relationships with loved ones, as well as the necessity to speak openly about our feelings and experiences to prevent similar disasters in the future. Remember that even one wrong choice can change a life forever. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn more about detective investigations, subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to share new captivating stories. Also, feel free to leave your impressions and thoughts in the comments. Your opinion matters to me,